Welcome in for another episode of the Hang Time Podcast. Sekou Smith, your host here in Atlanta. Special guest this week, Kevin Love, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Joining us for a few minutes. Kevin Love, my friend, how are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on? Everything's good. Everything's good.
You know, I was laughing as I was taking a look at your modeling pics. You know, you got your supermodel thing on, and I was thinking back. I was like, when's the first time I saw Kevin Love on a basketball court? It was in Vegas one summer when you were still in high school. You were playing with Taylor King, Brandon Jennings, and Renardo Sidney, and y'all were playing against O.J. Mayo's team.
Yeah,
and
we used to pack those gyms out.
Oh man, Mark Spears and Michael Lee and myself, some other guys who covered the league back then, we got some courtside seats. I sat next to O.J. Mayo's aunt, who threw popcorn at me and cursed me out because she wanted to know who I was rooting for, and I was like, I'm not here to root. And
right.
she's like, if you're not here to root for us, then you need to go. But it got me to thinking, though, Kev, just how long of a journey it is. You know, people just assume you guys get to the league and you just showed up. But this is a basketball grind that starts in early teenage years.
Oh, way back.
Guys. Yeah.
Way back.
So for you, what's that like now looking at it from this vantage point, from where you are now?
No, I mean, it's crazy to think about grassroots basketball, and that continues to be an evolution as well. And I actually like where it's headed. So now, you know, you're not playing 5 games a day anymore, or Sunday. You're playing 5 games, the 5th game's a championship. It's more skill-oriented and skill-based because the athleticism, it continues to get better, it looks like. I mean, we have guys coming into the league. We have, you know, high school players now that, you know, like a Zion Williamson kid, he's, you know, probably the most athletic high school kid I've ever seen. And that's after watching some of the best even to ever do it, like LeBron James. He's just a powerful, powerful kid. I think, 6'6", 6'7", 275 pounds. I mean, that's a monster, and you wouldn't expect him to be that athletic. But it's crazy to see where the game has gone, where the grassroots programs have gone. And I think it continues to get better because it is focused on primarily skill and building it out from there. So that's very positive. And that was, I think, something that just started to trend and trend in the positive and right direction when I came out of high school and went on to UCLA and my first year, you know, 6 years in Minnesota all the way until now. This is my 5th season with the Cavs, my 11th season in the league. So, you know, I was very fortunate to, you know, have a father that played in the NBA and that valued not only playing different games and, you know, having some failures and making mistakes. And then on the other side of things, you know, having a very positive experience and winning basketball games, but also focused on a lot of the skill work, which, you know, a lot of different teams throughout the country, but also the European influence has had such a big influence on our game to where guys are stretching out and, you know, you see the pace and space type of a league. And I think you're looking at 4 and 5s now that are able to shoot the basketball at such a high clip. So I know that was long-winded, but I think it's all very, very positive in where the game is headed.
Yeah, I agree. What's the biggest change that's occurred in your game? I mean, I remember your Minnesota days. You put up monster numbers, and then you have to adjust your game when you go to Cleveland. And to me, I always have placed a higher value on what kind of numbers a guy can put up in a winning situation. And that, you know, because to me, that tells the real value. I watched other guys who play on a team that's not as good early in your career, and you average 23 points a game. Then you go somewhere and average 17. The 17 on a winning team is sometimes much more valuable.
Right.
So what for you do you think has been the biggest evolution in your game?
Well, I think on the floor, something that I guess is more surface level is just being able to shoot the ball. I mean, that it was, I think, one of the big reasons that Cleveland traded for me in the first place, because just being able to play with 2 ball-dominant guys like Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, who I mentioned pace and space, being able to play downhill, LeBron being such a freight train, and Kyrie being a magician with the ball and having such an unbelievable handle. With them playing downhill, you have to be able to be a knockdown shooter, and having my size and being able to shoot at a high clip and play on the perimeter a bit is a luxury. Yeah. And, you know, so much of that time, those guys are warranting so much attention that ball will find you, and the ball has that proper energy if you know, you're ready for it. So I think that is one of the big things I've continued to evolve in my game. And early on in my career, I wasn't shooting too much from the outside. But I would say a little deeper than surface level is, you know, kind of like you mentioned, like on a winning team, I went from being the number 1 guy with a very high usage rate, a guy that had some, you know, bad habits or bad tendencies, and that I was the number one guy. I didn't have a lot of veteran leadership in my first few years, to learning how to sacrifice. I think that was huge. That was, something I had to learn how to do. It's not just something that you accept right away. I mean, I know who I am. I was pretty stubborn early on, but when I saw the bigger picture and learned, I guess not learn this situation, but had an idea of what the situation was and knew that we had a chance to win a championship every year that we were together.
Yeah.
That was something where I said, okay, so the only way we're going to do this is if not only myself, but a number of guys sacrifice in order for the better of the team. Like, we're going to let Kyrie, we're going to let Bron be themselves, but everybody else is going to have to sacrifice in order for us to be great.
Speaking of those two guys, how does it change now? I mean, this had to be an interesting offseason. You mentioned how you came to Cleveland. Now you're the last man standing to that trio.
Right.
How did this offseason change in this point of your career, when you're already established, won a championship?
Right.
Did your focus shift at all, knowing that you may have to come back and be a little bit more the bell cow and your usage rate's probably going to have to go up?
Absolutely. And I think it's a constant evolution. I think, as speaking of sacrifice and speaking of my time in Minnesota, this has all prepared me for this time now. I have to step into more of a leadership role. And, I had to first learn how to follow. Like, I learned a lot of his leadership tendencies and leadership qualities from a guy like LeBron, and saw what he did on a daily basis and how he interacted with the coaching staff and with his teammates. So, I think you can, in a lot of ways, it kind of transcends any walk of life. You can always learn from the best. So I'm going to take some of what he did, as well as kind of transfer in some of my leadership qualities and see where that goes. But also knowing on the court, there's not only going to be that, there's going to be actually playing the game and getting my elbow touches and figuring out where I can be effective on the perimeter, as well as knowing that we're going to be a up and down team, a team that's going to have to be super physical, a team that's going to have to be in great shape. And at the end of the day, we're going to have to knock down shots. So there's going to be a lot of layers to this thing, but It's going to be those, micro gains early on, just making sure that it's steps forward and not steps back. And I know that's a cliche, but for us, that holds very true in a team that we have.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, Kevin, but I've always been curious to ask guys this. What's been more enjoyable? And I mean, like, just the basketball, the pure basketball part of it. The climb, trying to become a champion, trying to become an all-star, trying to establish yourself in the league, or once you get there and then realizing that you're one of those guys. I saw you this summer in Vegas, USA Basketball. I mean, being a part of that group. Okay, you make the league, that's one thing. 400 and some guys every year are playing in the NBA. But then there's that subset of like 60 guys who are the cut above the very best.
Right.
Was it more fun trying to get to the league or getting to the point you are now, where you're one of the elite players in the league?
See, I think for somebody, at least like myself, and when you really look back at it, I always think the chase is the best part. I mean, I think it's like, as humans, or as people that want to be successful and make the next step in their lives, and that have the chase, they acquire something and they say, "Ooh, I like this. I want to keep this. I want to move forward. I want to get it again." I think the chase, but our masochistic instinct is to put the carrot right outside and dangle it right outside of what we consider success, and that's me. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of guys in this league. But also, there is something to walking the walk as well, and knowing that I do belong and I can sit at the table. So there is that, but I think that chip on the shoulder, that edge, isn't lost on somebody like myself and a lot of players at the top of this league and a lot of guys climbing to get there. That the chase is the best part. It's putting in that time. It's when nobody's watching, what are you doing? It's developing great habits and finding ways to better yourself on and off the floor. I think that's the best part in life. It's the best part in basketball, and I think it's an admirable quality to have. I'm not just saying it's me. I'm saying it's a lot of guys in this league who are very special and very talented.
No question, and I think that blends into what's going on, as you mentioned, off the court for a lot of guys. I'm always amazed at how many of you guys have so many variable interests, right. And it's not every guy's trying to rap. Not every guy is doing the cutting edge fashion. I mean, there are a lot of different interests that guys have, and I understand that. But it's curious to me, you probably never saw yourself as the fashion model type when you're 16. And then
if you see me coming into the league, there's no way in hell that you thought I was. In no way. that I'd be designing for Banana Republic, having my own collection now. But it's crazy. Like, even if you consider fashion in general, like guys around the league, like whether it be Bron or Russell Westbrook or CP, like different guys that, are able to express and show who they are walking into arena, because the arena so much now has become a runway and a form of self-expression for all of us. So that itself has been very fun. But like, so many guys have different interests and are into so many things and are, in some way a renaissance man. Like for me, the Banana Republic collection and my collection, which is available now at bananarepublic.com. No, plug. No, but it's been so special because that was one of my goals when, I should say when I first came into the league, because I had to figure out kind of who I was and how I wanted to dress and what was, kind of fitting for me and, kind of evolve it from there. But it was one of my goals to have like my own capsule collection or work with an iconic brand or like American brand, or it didn't matter. I just wanted to have my own collection and be able to design something like that and build something, as I previously mentioned. So that is, one of my many interests. I know a lot of guys in the league are into wine and some guys are getting into art and cars. And it's cool to see guys that have, vested interests elsewhere. It's makes it a lot of fun. And for after basketball, guys could be doing business elsewhere in things that you would have never thought.
You mentioned 11 years in the league. And I know when you're early in your career, your focus is on just grinding and trying to be the best player you can be. But I would imagine once you get 10 years deep, you get a decade into the league, you got to start thinking about life after basketball. It has to be on your mind because you've hit that age where guys, the average career doesn't last that long. You guys have all played fantastic in terms of the amount of years you've put in. When do you start seriously plotting for whatever comes next? Not that it's anywhere close for you, but just the plan.
I think, it's easy to say there's no time like the present, but I'll give you two things. At least in this last year, being able to admit I had a problem with my mental health and I needed to address it, whether it be on the anxiety or depression side. I think that was something that I wanted to share my own story, and without something catastrophic, happening in my life, I don't know if I would have gotten to that point yet, but I wanted to share my story. I'd done that on the Players Tribune, and I really believe that everybody's going through something. But I really found in that regard, like I found what I was going to do after basketball in my life work was to be able to help people in that space, and I've created my own fund now. But another story is, speaking of USA Basketball, I was there in the middle of July, like we always go. We always get together for a few days. I remember seeing KD, and I said, Kevin, he's like, it's crazy. Like I was like, I'm going into my 11th year. You're going into your 12th year. He goes, man, I know, like we're over the hill. Like, and I thought about it. I thought, damn, even if I were to play 20 years, I'm still over halfway through my career, and I'm in my prime. KD's in his prime. He's had the ultimate success in this league. He's seen it all, done it all, but he ain't playing 24 years.
Right.
So it is crazy to think that it felt like yesterday that we talked about youth basketball, we talked about grassroots basketball, we talked about, I mentioned UCLA, and then, going over, the dynamic between Minnesota for 6 years, Cleveland for 4, and now going into my 11th year. Just time is fast fleeting. So I think there's no time like the present, and there's no time like right now to find out what you're going to get into after basketball, because I know most guys just have those blinders on and that singular focus. But I think as you have success in this league and as you find your way, I think a lot of things will open up to you. And you know that you've had those interests maybe your whole life.
Yeah, that's interesting you mentioned that. And I want to take a moment to applaud you and DeMar DeRozan and Keon Dooling and a lot of other guys, in the league who have spoken up about mental health issues and other causes outside of basketball. I got teenage sons, and they hang on every word and every action, of their favorite players. You guys are their heroes, whether I like it or not, whether I want them to listen to me or you, I know where they're going, And so I think you guys did a service for a lot of people by stepping out into that forum the way you did. And, again, I want to say that I appreciate it, and I think you guys are doing a hell of a job representing yourselves in the league and knocking down some of those barriers. I wonder, were you nervous at all about how that would be received, not in the league, but just in the broader culture? Like,
I was. Yeah. I definitely was, especially, because a lot of these, I don't even know if I would call them insecurities. I believe everybody has them, but I was insecure about how people perceived mental health and how people would perceive me going through a panic attack and having that type of episode and dealing with my depression and deep-seated stuff, or dealing with anxiety on a daily basis and having to cope with it. So I was nervous to share my story, but I also knew that in talking with my agent, who's like a mentor to me, Jeff Schwartz, he said, he's like, if you can I see what you're doing. Like, if you can just help that one person, I said, yeah, Jeff, I think if I can just pay it forward and help that one person, like, that'll be freeing and liberating and make me feel really good. And I had no idea that it would establish the community that it has. I had no idea that I would be setting up a fund several months later. I had no idea that me coming forward and DeMar coming forward and then him opening the door for me, which, talk about applauding somebody. He was really the first one in the NBA to do that. That was a huge moment for me, but it did have that sense of being very scary early on and not knowing, when I hit send and released that article, what would happen with it. But it was very positive, and I think so many people now and from every walk of life, knowing that it doesn't discriminate, and guys in our situation have been very empathetic and in some ways been able to commiserate. It's been very therapeutic, not only for myself, but guys even that have success, because success isn't immune to depression. Nobody's immune to it. I think in many cases, or in all cases, somebody and everybody at one point in their life is going to deal with something that is going to affect their mental health and wellness.
No, I agree. It's a universal thing, and like I said, it's important for the people who are most visible and have the biggest platforms to talk about it.
Well, it's the same thing, to interject for a second, it's the same thing with, mental health and wellness is universal, but a guy like LeBron James setting up his own school. Right. You talk about leadership, you talk about a social platform, you talk about, reach, being able to reach as many people. Like his reach is vast.
Yeah.
Because of not only his platform, because of who he is and what he's done with his school is just absolutely incredible. So I think a lot of guys are more than an athlete, so to speak. It's bigger than basketball, and having our reach and having our platform, we're taking advantage of it. So that makes all this even the more special. When you talk about our interests elsewhere, we are doing a great job, and I'm very proud of our league for, just being sponges and taking all this stuff in and, giving it right back.
I agree. I know we kept you a while, so I'll finish up here, but you mentioned LeBron's name several times, and I made it a point. I was like, I'm not going to hammer this LeBron. I'm not going to talk about LeBron. I know he's gone. Everybody knows he's gone. But Do you appreciate now, I guess now that he's gone, you spend that time with him, you're grinding with him, chasing the championship, you're battling the Warriors, year after year, going to the finals, you guys dealing with the drama, the injuries, the adversity. Now that it's changed, do you look at it and have a better appreciation, maybe even more now that he's a Laker? You think and look back and say, man, you don't get this opportunity very often in a career.
No, I always appreciated playing with, arguably who I think is the best player ever. I remember there was times throughout playoff series, wasn't even in the finals. There was times throughout playoff series because regular season, I think he has, you get regular season LeBron, who's still the best player in the world, but then you get postseason LeBron and his run he had last year. But even prior to that, I said, I would say to guys, in huddles or in fourth quarters or at times when I was taking a break, I was like, man, this guy is the best. We're watching something special here. This is the best player ever. So I think you learn to appreciate that, he bailed us out of a lot of situations.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, being who he is and being there with him when you're in it, you kind of don't realize sometimes what's going on around you, because if you have that presence of mind, you just get lost in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I did a lot of the time. So we definitely miss having his energy around, and definitely miss his leadership, definitely miss those situations where, more often than not, large majority of the time he was playing at such a high level that, whether he's setting guys up, scoring the basketball, rebounding the basketball, he was just a special player to play with. But I think, definitely those situations more than anything, but also as a whole, LeBron is a force. So just having him on your team, you don't lose sight of that.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Cleveland Cavaliers can do in the aftermath of that. Funny thing, Tyronn Lue was the point guard on the Atlanta Hawks team I covered years ago, so I've known him for years. And Colin Sexton is from actually from my neighborhood. He went same high school as that my son and my kids went to. So my worlds collide all the time, being around this game as long as I have. And then unfortunately for you, you've now been around it. So you can do the same
man.
thing.
Time is fast fleeting. I just turned 30. The funny thing is I feel great. My body feels great, but like looking back, you're like, dang. Like, I came into this league at 19. Like I was like Colin Sexton. I was the same kid, like learning the league the same way he was. But that is also like very fun and has a way of bringing that side out of you as well. Because you see yourself in him quite a bit.
I bet, man. It's going to be fun to watch all this year, and tell the rest of those cats. We're not writing y'all off. I know a lot of people are writing the Cavaliers off. Right. I'm going to let this season play out and see what y'all can do, man. Looking forward to it.
It's a growth year for us. We'll be all right.
Definitely. Kevin Love, check his collection out at Banana Republic. I'm going to be there. As long as they got the 3330s in the pants section, I'm good.
They got it.
I'm not shopping in the tall guy section. I'm just getting in the short guy section, but I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, Kev. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Hector. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Right.
That's Kevin Love, guys. Talking about not just basketball, which we could do that every day. I mean, this is a league we cover day after day, and you can get the basketball talk all the time, but very interesting things he has to say about life beyond the game, and I think you get a glimpse of that there listening to him. Appreciate the Cleveland Cavaliers and Kevin Love and the folks at Banana Republic doing his thing. Check out his collection. Be interested to see what the Cavaliers do this season. They got a mix of old and young. And we're going to see if they can put it together in the aftermath of LeBron James moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers. This is a special Hang Time podcast. Sorry my man John Schumann is not here with us. He's somewhere crunching numbers, doing his thing, and he'll be back on the next episode. But we appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you right here next time on the Hang Time podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Hang Time podcast, and be sure to subscribe on iTunes for a new episode every single Thursday this season. And as always, people, remember, say Kuna Matata.